Hi, this is Pete Andresen with Andresen and Associates, and it is November 6th in the evening. It's about 8 o'clock. I just got done with my last phone call, and I thought I would make a video to discuss what happened. What happened, obviously, was the presidential election. President Trump now appears to be our next president. A couple of years back, I made a video about the inflation that was surging, and I said that inflation usually causes regime change. It causes higher interest rates, and it usually causes eventually a recession. I am surprised to say that the most likely thing has happened, and that is regime change. The election of President Trump by such margins is kind of a surprise to a lot of us. And I'm getting a lot of phone calls. People want to know what I think, what they should do. The first thing is that, as I've stated in past videos, doing anything because of politics has seldom been a successful strategy. That may change in the future, but I've had clients call me up and tell me to sell because Trump was elected the first time. I've had people call up and tell me to sell because Obama was elected. I've watched people make a lot of political decisions for their portfolios, and seldom has that turned out well. But if history does not lie about inflation and regime change, then what else is history telling us? The reason I'm concerned relates to overall debt levels, which I've been talking about since the 1990s. Broken record, I guess. But right now it's getting serious. Here's a graph. Take a look at this. This is overall debt out there in the public. Really substantial. Now, the reason this pertains to the election is that neither party, not the Democrats, not the Republicans, have addressed the fact that we're getting close to a debt crisis. Nobody addressed that. And President Trump has indicated that he'll deficit spend even more than he did the first time. So that's going to become an issue, perhaps. The other thing I would say is that presidents are usually responsive to events around them, not directing those events. Usually the events direct the president. They come to office with a lot of ideas, and then life happens. The other thing I would say is deficits. Deficits are going to be an issue for the future. Maybe not in the next couple of years, but in the future, probably so. So we've got to be paying attention to deficits. Once again, Trump has indicated that he doesn't care about deficits. But then again, neither do the Democrats. The deregulation should help if that actually happens. If we don't have a war, that will help. Although I perceive that it's like the 1930s and we do need to stand up to Putin. People will disagree with me on that, and I accept that that's how you feel. But history suggests to me that Putin is essentially Hitler. And if we let Ukraine go, we're going to be facing Poland in 1939 all over again. So I could be wrong. The other issue that continues to loom and has been looming for a while is valuation. Here's a graph. This is I've mentioned 10 different variables. This is the Shiller PE. Check it out. If we're not in a bubble, we're close to one. Not everything's in a bubble. Bonds aren't in a bubble. Value stocks aren't in a bubble. International, small. I've gone over that before in other videos. But today's boom in the stock market, basically we had a crash going up, isn't supported by fundamentals or valuations, but maybe it'll turn out okay. This is why we are not rebalancing our index fund. This is why we are not trying to stay away from this thing, because we're already conservative and diversified enough. Finally, one last comment. Take a look at this graph. Believe it or not, enthusiasm for an investment is an indicator, not a timing indicator. You can't really tell the time of when this is going to happen, but it is an indicator of when or if an investment is subject to a correction. Basically, the more timers, market timers are for it. This is from the Holbert newsletter. The more positive people are about an investment, the more likely it is to have negative returns going forward. So right now, if you look at it, the market timers are the most negative about bonds, which suggests historically that bonds are a relative buy. Again, not because of the interest rate itself, but because of the potential capital gains. But look at what it's saying about the stock market, suggesting we got a little room to move. And look at gold. People are just hog wild for gold right now, which suggests that in the future gold returns will be limited. Now, another thing. Some of the big investment houses, such as Vanguard, have produced very low estimates of the future decade's total returns for the S&P 500. Once again, they've been doing this for years. I don't expect that I can predict when that turn is going to happen. Meanwhile, I have chosen not to rebalance and let those assets grow. Call me if you disagree with that. Call me. But the basic thing here is that it looks, again, like an overvaluation situation, and we want to tread cautiously. Today's boom was not necessarily, it might be, in which case I'm wrong and I'll live with that, but not necessarily an indication that the next 4 years are going to be marvelous, simply from a valuation point of view. It's going to be a wild card. The first Trump administration was characterized by a lot of volatility, social volatility, command volatility. It was punctuated by a lot of unexpected events. So I cannot speak to what's going to happen in the next 4 years, except to say that if we already have extremely diversified portfolios, there's no reason to react, clutch pearls, run in circles, and shriek. With that in mind, it's a time to take a deep breath and move on with life. I wish you well, happy fall, and blessings.